Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel approves the building of hundreds of new homes in East Jerusalem. The Israeli Prime Minister plans a trip to Washington, and a new Israeli invention may prevent millions of deaths. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. As part of Israeli confidence that the Trump administration will be far more supportive of further development in the Jewish state, permits have just been issued for the building of hundreds of housing units in 3 Jerusalem neighborhoods over the 1967 lines in areas the Palestinians claim for their future state. These same projects had been taken off the Jerusalem municipality's agenda at the last minute in December, following a personal request from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an effort to stymie any further friction with the outgoing administration of Barack Obama. Now that Trump's taken office, Jerusalem City Hall approved the construction of about 560 new homes in areas Israel sees as part of its undivided capital, but are unrecognized by the international community. The Palestinians are predictably denouncing the move.
By targeting specifically Jerusalem, they are making use of the statements during the Trump elections campaign about recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and therefore legalizing Israel's illegal annexation of Jerusalem in order to expand its settlement activities in Jerusalem.
Ahead of his phone call with Trump, Netanyahu is believed to have informed his high-level security cabinet that he will soon announce the expansion of construction not only in Jerusalem, but also the settlement blocks in the West Bank. Even though local media is reporting that the Prime Minister went on to say his vision is for all West Bank settlements to ultimately come under Israeli sovereignty, he persuaded the ministers to postpone a vote on the Bennett bill to annex Ma'ale Adumim on the outskirts of Jerusalem for at least a month. U.S. President Donald Trump is inviting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to visit Washington in just a few weeks. The offer came during the two leaders' first conversation since Trump took office, although apparently the headline-topping issue of the U.S. Embassy move to Jerusalem never came up. During the telephone call, Trump stressed his unprecedented commitment to Israel's security, as well as the importance of strengthening the U.S.-Israeli relationship. According to a statement from the White House, Trump agrees with Netanyahu that peace between Israel and the Palestinians can only be negotiated between the two parties, and says his new administration will work with Jerusalem to achieve that goal. The two men also agreed to continue close consultations on a range of regional issues, including addressing threats posed by Iran. Even though there was reportedly no mention of moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem from Tel Aviv ahead of the call, White House spokesman Sean Spicer said the administration is only in the early stages of talks to fulfill Trump's campaign pledge to do so. Officials at Netanyahu's office are describing the conversation as very warm. They also say the Prime Minister expressed his desire to work closely with the American president to forge a common vision to advance peace and security in the region, with no daylight between the two nations. The sources also confirmed that a final date for Netanyahu's visit to Washington will be set in the coming days. With the new U.S. administration forming its ties with Israel, many questions come up not just about what the new policies will be, but whether or not they're even possible. Joining me to discuss some of the new aspects of the Israeli-U.S. partnership is former Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister and senior Israeli diplomat Danny Ayalon. Danny, thanks so much for coming in.
Nice to be here.
So let's begin. Yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump had their first official phone conversation, a big deal for everybody over here, and they reportedly discussed the Iranian threat, peace with the Palestinians, among many other issues. Now, with Trump's rhetoric being virtually untested, we really don't know what's going to happen. What do you think his priorities actually are going to be once, he now is in office?
Well, I think this depends. First of all, I'm sure that once a new president gets into the Oval Office, he gets all the intelligence report, the analysis, strategic geopolitics, and he will have to set the priorities. There is no doubt that from the American point of view, the relationship with NATO the old alliance, the relationship with Russia, what to do with Russia, how to contain China, how to fight Islamic terrorism, ISIS. I think this would be very much high on his priority list. However, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict may also get up there if he will see a chance, any opening for moving forward. And for that, it will take time to find out whether this can happen or not.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think President Trump's attitudes toward the Middle East and foreign policy in general will look like? Because, he's very much stressing American interests come first and foremost.
Well, Natasha, I think that his prime interest is the domestic, reducing regulation, changing the tax code, of course, canceling Obamacare, pouring $1 trillion on infrastructure, many, growth and everything like that. Secondly, maybe when it comes to foreign affairs, would be the trade issues and and less the geopolitics. I don't think he has ever had any experience in that. We saw it also during the transition period that without consulting the State Department, he made some faux pas, either taking the phone call from the president of Taiwan, upsetting China, and a few other things that he did. But when it comes to the Middle East, I'm not sure that he will really want to be too much involved. He will have Secretary of State Tillerson, which knows the Middle East very much, not so much us, Israel, but certainly the Arab world. And of course, he will rely on his advisors, Jared Kushner, David Friedman, which will be the ambassador here, Jason Greenblatt. And when it comes to Israel, there is no doubt in my mind that he likes us, as he said. He thinks we are nice, he said that. But no, he really sees Israel as a strategic ally, I would say a kinship in spirit, sister democracy. And I also think that the characters of Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump will, I would say, will mesh much better than, or will align better than it was with Obama.
Yeah, I mean, we're really going to have to wait and see. Now, following Trump's inauguration, we already saw over 560 homes in East Jerusalem approved to be built, which was a move that hadn't been made under the Obama presidency because Netanyahu, as he said, did not want to ruffle any feathers in the wrong way. But now it seems like because of Trump's stated policies and attitudes towards Israel, this shift might be okay. But are we going to see this affect the Israeli-Palestinian peace process in any way? And will Trump get involved?
I think one major point that came out from the discussion, from the phone conversation yesterday between Netanyahu and Trump was that the president insisted and emphasized direct negotiations only, Israel and the Palestinians, without precondition, and no imposition of any settlement. I think this is very much aligned with Israeli interest. I believe also this aligns with the possibility this will further the chances for any settlement. Hopefully, after we have seen for the last 8 years to no avail that the Palestinians really were very intransigent. And part of the reason was that they thought that Obama or the international community will deliver Israel for them. So they did not have any incentive or no will to compromise. Now, maybe they will understand that for their own national interest, they must compromise because a negotiation is give and take. So far, they only wanted to take.
Now, one of the major topics on everybody's mind is the moving of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Do you think this is actually going to happen, even though Trump has, in fact, said that he's in support of that move?
I'm not sure, unfortunately, and certainly not very soon. We hear a different tone coming out of Washington, saying that it will take time, that they're beginning a thinking process. And here I'm sad to say that it has been the case for every president since '96, when the Congress passed the law of moving the embassy to Jerusalem, until now, that State Department, the DOD, CIA, all were against it, and they were coming with horror reports that in such a case of moving the embassy, then there will be a total collapse of the U.S. foreign, let's say, relations, and also maybe it will put American diplomats at risk more than they are now. I hope that Trump will be like Truman back in '48, that overruled the entire bureaucracy and went with his conscience.
Well, Ambassador Dania Yalom, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
The Palestinians have also been quick to anger over the White House statements that it's in the early stages of talks to fulfill President Donald Trump's pledge to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, Aaron, what is the latest update on this move?
Well, there are, the president's spokesperson said that there were a few different options on the table, including having the new ambassador living and operating out of Jerusalem, but keeping the physical embassy in Tel Aviv so as not to anger the international community. So really at this moment, it's just a game of wait and see. The White House announcement came as the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah in Amman to discuss the embassy move. Abbas has previously stated that the peace process would be damaged if Trump goes ahead with his plan, which is also likely to prompt protests from American allies in the Middle East, such as Jordan, in addition to Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Ahead of his visit to the Hashemite kingdom, Abbas left no doubt as to his views.
نحن قلنا للسيد ترامب نتمنى أن لا ينقل السفارة من تل أبيب إلى القدس لأن القدس من وجهة نظر إسرائيل مدينة موحدة، وهذا غير صحيح طبعا، غير قانوني، وبالتالي في أي مكان ينقل السفارة ينقلها سابقا لكل ما يمكن أن يحصل في المستقبل، يعني يعطل عملية السلام، ولذلك نتمنى أن يوقف هذا وأن تبدأ المفاوضات على أساس الشرعية الدولية.
Palestinians have been holding a series of protests against Trump. Demonstrators in the West Bank city of Bethlehem are hanging posters telling the new president to move the embassy to your own country, not ours, while other signs call for Trump to be stopped because Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine. A number of Arab demonstrators stomped on pictures of Trump's face before setting them on fire. In the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip, residents have also been gathering to voice opposition against Trump's promise while angrily repeating the claim that Jerusalem is not Israeli, but the capital of Palestine.
Now, turning to the corruption allegations dogging Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, despite his 30 years in public office, including 11 years as a nation's leader, Netanyahu's political future is being called into question as never before. There's been non-stop local news coverage of two alleged cases of impropriety, including claims of leaked evidence. But prosecutors have confirmed almost none of what's emerged, other than to say the Prime Minister has undergone 2 rounds of questioning by police since January 2nd. Netanyahu continues to insist he's done nothing wrong and that he's being victimized by the media.
בימים האחרונים מתנהל נגדי מסע תקשורתי אדיר שמטרתו להפיל את ממשלת הליכוד בראשותי. איפה נשמעה שערורייה כזאת? חקירה שלמה מתנהלת בטלוויזיה. ערב ערב מפיצים תמלילים מסוננים שנבחרים בקפידה ושקרים מכוונים בשני הנושאים שעומדים על הפרק. אני כמובן מנוע מלהגיב, אני כמובן מנוע מלהציג לציבור את התמונה האמיתית שמראה שלא הייתה פה שום עבירה. המסע המתוזמר הזה כולל אנשי תקשורת שתפקידים כאן לא רק כעיתונאים, הם גם החוקרים, גם השופטים, גם התליינים.
One of the cases under investigation involves suspicions Netanyahu and his wife received expensive gifts from businessmen, which is prohibited by Israeli law. According to the media, the benefactors include Israeli Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan and Australian casino tycoon James Packer. Some of the reports claim that Netanyahu's 25-year-old son Yair, who's a friend of Packer's, has also been questioned by police. The second case is over whether the prime minister made a mutually beneficial deal with the publisher of Yediot Achronot newspaper. Local Israeli television has been airing alleged transcripts of a reportedly taped conversation between the two men, for the publisher to give the premier positive coverage if the leader advances legislation to harm the newspaper's main competitor. One of the country's top news anchors says she believes if any charges are actually filed, it would mean the end of Netanyahu's political future.
We have to wait to the decision of the Attorney General. if he's going to indict him or not. And we don't know in which charges he's going to indict him, if it's bribe or only breach of trust. So, but if he's going to be indicted, I think it's the end of his career as a politician.
The alleged leaks are fueling opposition calls for Netanyahu's resignation.
יש פה מדינה לנהל. יש לנו בעיות אמיתיות, ואנחנו לא יכולים להרשות לעצמנו ראש ממשלה שמבלה יותר זמן עם עורכי דינו ובחדרי החקירות, מאשר בדיוני קבינט ובדיונים על הכלכלה.
For now, the investigations aren't affecting financial markets and the currency remains strong. And even though Netanyahu's coalition is stable for the time being, some analysts believe the suspicions could eventually force new elections. Despite the controversy swirling around him, the prime minister used his own nickname while telling his cabinet he has no intention of leaving anytime soon.
אז אני מבקש לומר לכל קוראי התמלילים, הנה עוד תמליל בשבילכם, ל20:00. ביבי, נקודותיים, זה לא יעזור לכם. אני מתכוון להמשיך להוביל את הליכוד ואת המדינה. בעזרתכם חבריי ובעזרת השם. תודה רבה לכם.
Israeli Army Radio is today reporting that the controversial military order known as the Hannibal Protocol has just been replaced by new directives for troops to keep their brother and sisters in arms from being captured by the enemy. The new orders are said to have gone into effect at the start of this year and vary according to 3 specific scenarios. One codenamed True Test would apply if such an incident occurs in the West Bank during peacetime, while a procedure called Tourniquet is to be followed if the attempted kidnapping is beyond Israeli borders. But during wars or other emergency situations, another directive has been issued, named after the biblical imperative to do whatever is necessary to protect life. The Hannibal Protocol was followed for the past 2 decades, but has been cancelled because of frequent misunderstandings over its scope. Troops were also allowed to use massive amounts of force to stop enemies from taking soldiers, but sometimes Hannibal was interpreted as requiring the killing of the victim, if there was no other way to prevent the capture. All 3 of the new directives stress that gunfire should only target enemy forces, while the captive is to avoid being hit at all costs. The Hannibal Protocol was last enacted in wartime during the conflict with Hamas on August 1st, 2014, when Lieutenant Hadel Goldin was believed to have been taken hostage in southern Gaza. As part of a large-scale operation to reclaim him, tanks and bulldozers smashed down Arab houses in a sealed-off zone, while aircraft bombed all possible escape routes through terrorist tunnels. Sadly, none of those efforts succeeded in finding the missing soldier, who was ultimately declared to have been killed in action during the initial battle. His remains have been held hostage by Hamas ever since. Now, this is a shocking statistic that I just learned. I bet you never knew that mistakes doctors make while filling out prescriptions are estimated to cause the premature deaths of more than 220,000 patients in the U.S. each year, while harming at least 1.5 million other people. Not only that, but a whopping 8 million of the 4 billion annual medical prescriptions American physicians write are believed to contain life-threatening errors. Now, an Israeli startup is able to eradicate these kinds of errors almost entirely, and we're about to hear about it. Aaron, tell us about this new invention.
It's called MetaWare, and as the name might suggest, it gives doctors a very much needed second pair of eyes, basically. And it essentially just, simply alerts the physician to when they have a potential error that they may have made.
Wow.
Researchers from the Harvard Medical School conducted a new study where they analyzed about 800,000 patient records while assessing programming designed by Israel's MetaWare technology company. The software works by integrating algorithms and machine learning to zero in on mistakes made by often exhausted doctors, capable of causing extremely adverse reactions, including death. The data was collected from thousands of physicians in their treatment of millions of patients. Not only can the Israeli device provide real-time alerts, but it does so with high accuracy, unavailable from any other source. According to the Journal of American Medical Informatics Association, which just published the Harvard study, MetaWare's technology sets a new standard for patient safety, capable of saving literally millions of lives across the world.
Now turning to another remarkable Israeli achievement in the world of high tech. This time, an invention has been made to specifically help disabled children.
A team of experts at the world-renowned Alin Rehabilitation Hospital in Jerusalem say they were responding to a real need when they set out to create ChairCall. Specialists in pediatric rehabilitation worked with volunteers from Intel and other organizations to create a remote control type device that actually lets their young patients beckon their electric wheelchairs to come to them. An application downloaded on tablets or smartphones is used to activate the device, which can be installed on the joysticks of any motor-driven wheelchairs. And one of the most impressive aspects is its price. The low cost of less than $16 puts the Israeli technology within reach of almost all wheelchair-bound people. The team that created CallChair was just awarded the prize for outstanding social development at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology in Haifa for significantly improving the quality of life for the disabled.
Now, I've been playing soccer my entire life, and to me the sport might just be the most common language on the planet. Well, one Israeli organization has made it their mission to promote coexistence and decrease crime across Israel by keeping this very revelation in mind, and I had so much fun meeting the kids involved. Let's check it out.
כולם אותו דבר. כי אם זה יהיה הוא זה והוא זה, אז יהיה קצת גזענות.
While governments across the world are busy arguing over how to promote coexistence, here in Israel, one organization is taking an entirely different approach.
It's called soccer!
On the field, everyone's equal. That's where this organization, the Equalizer, got its name from. Well, maybe not everyone.
מסי השחקן הכי טוב בעולם, לדעתי.
מי רוצה להגיד רונלדו פה?
אני רוצה.
טוב, אז לא. I'm joking. No matter which soccer team or player you're rooting for, here's the bottom line. You don't have to come from the same background to play the sport. At the Equalizer, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Bedouin, Druze, or the child of a refugee, you have a place on the field.
One of my coaches is Arab, and he's training a Jewish team. And it's beautiful, and the parents like it, and they trust him.
The Equalizer began about 8 years ago, and today the organization provides tutoring and soccer training for over 2,300 needy students across Israel.
We want to teach them how to respect each other and to show them that every child is a child, and it doesn't matter what language he speaks or what God he believes.
אם מישהו נופל, לוחצים יד ומרימים. זה מרגיש לי טוב וכיף, אני נהנה פה, וכולם פה שווים.
Today, just over 8 million people live in Israel. 6.1 million of them are Jewish, but the other 25% of the population is made up of Arabs and other minorities. Now, worldwide leaders are turning to the Equalizer for some advice on how to make such contrasting communities get along.
Look, I'm a politician. Politicians come, politicians go. Governments come, governments go. But there'll always be young people. These young people are the future of the country. In England, we say we see life through football. Well, here you've got young kids, same dreams, different kids, different backgrounds, who'd never mix otherwise, brought together. It's really powerful.
And these kids should be proud of themselves for teaching international leaders that in the real world, politics aren't always necessary when it comes to getting along.
לא צריך לדבר כל כך שפות בשביל לשחק, כי זה משחק הוגן.
See you, ILTV! Bye!
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Well, Hebrew is an ancient language dating back thousands of years. It was only revived as a spoken language in the late 19th century. So it's no surprise that many words are borrowed from English and other modern languages. Our word today is energia, meaning energy, and it's clearly derived from English. So after a long day's work, you can say, wow, en li energia, meaning I don't have energy. Or you can take part in a discussion about energia mitchadeshet, or renewable energy. However you feel like using the word or your physical energia, though, just remember to put a little aside so you can catch our show. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy to cloudy with a low of 52 or 11 degrees Celsius. You can expect tomorrow to be cloudy again, but with an additional rise in temperatures to high of 73 or 23 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.8 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you tonight.